Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to We Should Cook That. This week we are taking a stab at recreating a classic dish from my favorite Italian joint, the Olive Garden. Totally kidding, but my wife has made this dish for me many times and it always blows me away, so I'm here to make it for you. It's going to be a long one though, so crack open a cold one and let's do this thing. Beef. It's what's for dinner. Where did that even come from? Honestly, I have no idea, but I'm definitely giving away my age. Now, this is no ordinary beef. These are beef short ribs, one of the most delicate, fatty, and delicious cuts out there. And we're going to start to prepare them by liberally salting and then republicanly peppering them on all sides. Now, for the beef, we're going to need half a cup of chopped basil, a quarter cup of extra virgin olive oil, a cup of water, a whole vidalia onion cubed, 1 cup of marsala wine, and a cup and a half of beef stock. To start, we're going to dump our olive oil into a Dutch oven and get it nice and hot before we put our short ribs in, just so we can get a beautiful sear on these guys. And that is all we want. We aren't cooking them through, we just want to develop a crispy crust on 3 or 4 sides. It should only take about 2 minutes on each side, and it's important we don't let them overcook, so make sure to keep an eye on them in this stage. And once they are done, go ahead and take them out, leaving behind a puddle of glorious beef fat, which I'm going to take a couple spoonfuls out for later, but this is totally optional. Now into the same pot, we're going to dump our onions and let them saute for 2 to 3 minutes. And once they're smelling like $1,000,000, we're going to make them smell like $1,000,000,000 by adding a few sprigs of thyme that I forgot to mention, in addition to our basil. Once everyone gets to know each other for about a minute or so, we're going to deglaze, which is a fancy word for pour liquid into our pan using our marsala wine.
Hey, what if you put a joke about smell-o-vision in right here?
Well, I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that, but I really do wish all 700,000 of you watching this could smell this, because it is absolutely divine. Now, once you've let your liquid reduce for about 4 minutes, go ahead and add the beef back into the pot. Seal it tight with a lid, and don't forget to tuck him in with his blankie, and give him a goodnight kiss before ripping his blankie off and throwing him into a 375-degree inferno for 2 hours. Now for our tortellini, we will need 2 cups of bread flour, 3 eggs, a teaspoon of salt, and a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to be making this the new fashioned way, so go ahead and dump your flour into the bowl of a stand mixer and fashion a well, which we're going to add our eggs, oil, and salt into. And then start to combine with your hands, bringing a little bit of flour into the liquid at a time. After you've gotten to the point where you can start kneading, make sure your dough isn't too dry. You want it to hold its shape, so if it's too dry, go ahead and add a teaspoon at a time of water, kneading in between until you end up with something that looks a little bit like this. At which point we can affix our dough hook, adjust the speed to low, and set a timer for 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes is up, your dough should go from looking like this to looking like this beautiful, cohesive ball of dough. Now, you may be tempted to jump right in and start cranking out tortellini, but we have to let this rest for at least 30 minutes. And oh wow, that was quick, so let's start by cutting our dough into 4 quadrants. We're going to take our first hunk of dough and roll it into somewhat of a rectangular shape. Then, with a pasta rolling attachment set to level 0, we're going to feed it through and fold it over onto itself before feeding it through again on level 0. Rinse and repeat this process a couple times before finally feeding the dough through and adjusting level up each time until you're left with a wonderful sheet of pasta dough.
Like the love that let us share our name. Always there was.
Disappointed that my camera didn't capture the egg rolling off the table, I decided it would be a brilliant idea to reenact the scene, so here goes nothing. Of course it doesn't roll this time. Alright, guess I'll just roll it myself.
Oh, come on!
Alright, so let's get started on the filling for our tortellini. As you can see, we'll need some ricotta, an egg, some parm, and some parsley. Now, if only I could just open this ricotta.
Got a new bottle of ketchup?
Sure.
It's on!
It was at this point that I realized this was not a twist-off ricotta top like usual, but rather a pop-off top. You really can't make up this level of stupidity, folks. But let's move on. For our filling, we're going to combine about 1.5 cups of ricotta, 1 egg, 1/3 cup of a freshly grated Parmesan, and about a pinch or 2 of finely chopped parsley. Stir to combine, and then season with salt and pepper to taste. Now, a little tip for making ravioli or tortellini or anything filled is to fill a plastic bag with your filling and then cut the tip off the end so that you get a nice even amount in each pocket of dough. So next up, I like to just clean up my sheet of dough a bit, making a rectangle, and then cut it into 1.5-ish or 2-inch squares like this. At which point you can go ahead and fill each square with just a little dollop of ricotta filling, making sure to not overdo it because we want to make sure these things can seal shut. And to aid the sealing shuttedness, we're going to lightly splatter paint 2 adjacent sides of the square with water. And as you can see, I'm going to simply fold it over and make sure to seal the outsides shut. You may get a little extra overflow, but just add a little bit less filling next time. Now, pay attention really closely here as oh, this is awkward. Okay, here we go. So you're going to basically just wrap one corner around your finger and then pinch it shut between your 2 fingers at the end. Nice and tight so it doesn't unfold and make a dumpling in the water. Make sure you block out like 17 hours for this because it definitely takes a while. Now let's start on our sauce. We need 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, a portabella mushroom chopped up, 2 tomatoes chopped, and our rendered beef fat from earlier, or olive oil if you didn't save it. We're going to start off by pouring the fat into the pan and getting it nice and hot, and then sauteing our mushrooms for a couple of minutes. I don't really like mushrooms for their texture at all, but the flavor is really going to shine through here. After that, go ahead and dump the tomatoes in your pot and continue to saute for a couple minutes, at which point you can go ahead and deglaze with the balsamic vinegar. And now, after 2 hours of waiting, it's finally time to unveil the majestic presence of our short rib. Just take a look at all that caramelized deliciousness. Wow. Now, let's get these guys out of the pot and make sure to save that amazing liquid in the bottom because that is going to be the base of our sauce. Now, as you can see, the bone should really just slip right out of the meat. So go ahead and debone and then clean up any thick pieces of gristle or connective tissue that you might find. So now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter, then spill 1 tablespoon of flour, and finally add another 2 tablespoons of flour to a small saucepan to create a roux. Once you've cleaned up the mess from the tablespoon of spilt flour, go ahead and heat your butter-flour mixture on medium-low heat for 2 to 3 minutes. Set your roux aside and bring back the Dutch oven, bringing the beef liquids back to a boil, at which point you can add back in your roux, stirring fervently to combine. After a couple minutes, or once your sauce has begun to thicken, kill the heat and add in a 1/4 cup of heavy cream, stirring to combine of course. And then you can add in your chopped beef and finally the tomato mushroom mixture. Now, doesn't that just look real nice? I think you could slather this onto a leather-bound book and it would taste good. Now, the last stop on our 23,000-hour journey is to send our little Italian sailors into a salty bath of reincarnation, where they'll be rebirthed into something edible, and not only edible, but delicious. Edible. Now all that's left is to slather a pile of steaming hot beef onto this bed of tortellini, and boom, we just made Olive Garden's braised beef tortellini. Oh yeah, and don't forget the basil. Now, I'm genuinely pretty excited to try this one, but honestly, I just wanted to see if I could make it better than my wife. And it turns out I can't. She's got me trumped. But either way, this dish is mind-blowing, and I would recommend hiring a private chef at a national restaurant chain to cook this for you and your loved ones for dinner at some point. Or try to make it home by yourself. Whatever, man. I don't care. Just do what you want to do. And now, for those of you true fans who made it all the way to this point in the video, I will now reveal my next reveal. At 200 subs, I will be revealing my right hand. So make sure to drop a like and smash that sub button below so the world can finally see my right hand.